Hi all, very warm welcome to you all. Uh, Thanks for joining the webinar. Let me quickly introduce myself. I'm Nilesh and I look after the pre-sales at pCloudy. Uh, I'll be walking you through all the throughout the webinar today. I'll be your host for that matter. And today's webinar is all about what's new we have in pCloudy 5.3, which we have released recently. So typically the webinar which we have today is for almost an hour, and I'll be walking you through these features which we have released in pCloudy 5.3 for next 40 to 45 minutes. And after that, we will have around 10 to 15 minutes of time for Q&A. I know, we want to have the session very interactive, but unfortunately, we cannot do that session interactive right today. So, what you can do is if you have any questions or any queries, please feel free to ask those questions in the window which you have on the GoToWebinar panel for the questions, and I'll be more than happy to answer those questions towards the end of the session today. I'm sure this way we can try to make it a little more interactive, this session here. All right, so let's begin now. Before we move on directly to the features which we have for 5.3, I want to quickly give a small introduction about pCloudy, what exactly pCloudy is all about, what we have support on pCloudy. This is for the benefit of those who are attending the webinar first, and for them pCloudy is absolutely new. I'm pretty sure a lot of participants here are existing pCloudy customers, so for them it may be a little uh, repetition, but I believe for the benefit of all, we should pretty much do that. All right, so let's quickly see what pCloudy is all about, right? So pCloudy in a nutshell, if you really look at it, is a device cloud mobile test platform, right? So we provide mobile devices, physical mobile devices, remotely accessible, and you can do a whole lot of testing on that. You can do a whole lot of application testing. You can use variety of applications to be tested on this platform. Now, what are all applications we support at pCloudy? So we support native applications, we support hybrid applications, we support mobile web applications, and PWA applications. Now PWA application is something which is picking up very quickly in the market. A lot of customers are moving to PWA applications. Yeah, we do have support for this also. What are all kind of different testing, or what are all different features you can use using pCloudy? We have four categories which is mentioned here, right? The first and foremost is manual testing. So when I say manual testing, you can actually use the real devices by accessing it remotely from your browser, and then you can do the manual testing of your application by installing the application on the device. And then typically the way you do manual testing with the device in hand, same way you can do the testing on the pCloudy devices by acquiring a device remotely, right? So that's what we are referring to here when I say manual testing. The second one is about device analytics. So we do have device analytics feature which will help you to get the right set of devices for a specific geography. If you want to test your application for a specific geography, you can get the specific device list from that particular geography using the feature called device analytics. The third section here is about test automation. I know that most of the organizations are moving towards the test automation side, and they want to create a lot of test cases. They want to, create the automation for that, and save their time to market, right? So we do have test automation support on pCloudy, and when I say we do have test automation support, it's not just the test automation execution. You can do it on one device. It basically supports the parallel execution of the test automation. So if you have written already a test cases, the automation test cases, you can use and leverage the pCloudy platform to run the same test cases on multiple devices parallelly. This will reduce a lot of time to execute the test runs, and in turn it will save time to market for your applications, right? So typically that's what we support here from the test automation perspective. Of course, we do have capability to even create the test automation cases by different means. We do have internal tool which will help you to record the workflow and create the test automation cases with the simple plain English keyword. We will have a separate webinar for that. But then we also have certain other features which can be used to get the elements of the devices, and then create your own test automation cases by writing the code there. And the last thing here is all about in-field UX testing. So if you really look at it, this is one single stop shop platform where you get each and everything. So in case you have a requirement where you have to test your application in the market before you release the application in the Play stores, you can leverage the in-field UX testing feature here, and you can choose a specific location. Let's say you want to for example, release your application in Australia, then you can just choose certain test engineers from Australia, and the real users with their real devices will test your application on that particular devices which they possess, and then they will give you the results, and they'll let you know the feedback. They'll let you know the issues if they find anything. So basically, this is something like crowd testing. So we do have that feature also here. Now if you see how can I access this particular platform, there are two ways to access this platform. The first one is through web. So in case you are using any standard web browser, you can use any standard web browser and you can access the remote devices from pCloudy. You can perform all the necessary features which we have just spoken about. And the second way is about using the plugins like for Android Studio and Xcode. So you can very well use the plugins. The development team or the white box test engineers can use these plugins to debug their application, to write the code, or whatever they want to do it with the remote devices. So these are the two different ways with which you can access the pCloudy platform. There are three primary offerings which we have. The first one is about public cloud, right? So the demonstration, whatever I'm going to showcase today, is from the public cloud. There are features which we have specific for the private and on-premise cloud, but then yeah, let's talk about the public cloud. So the first offering, public cloud, we have 500 plus real devices on this cloud. It's a wide variety of devices we have on the cloud. We have 4 different locations. We have real seams in which you can actually use these seams to um, test your application on the real networks if you have that kind of requirement. And this is a global platform, so any user across the globe can access this. They can register on this device and then this platform, and they can start using this particular platform. The second offering we have is on-premise cloud. Now when I say on-premise cloud, it means it's a dedicated instance of the cloud which will be set up within your premises or within your organization behind the firewall of your organization, right? So we have a combination of hardware and software servers. So we come with that cloud infrastructure within your premises, and we set up that cloud infrastructure there, and then you can plug in the devices which we have already invested on, and create a beautiful lab out of that, which can be accessed dedicatedly by your own team members within your organization. And you can also have a restricted access. You can provide the restricted access to the external partners who are actually involved in the testing activities for your project. Yeah, and the third offering we have is about private cloud. When I say private cloud, it's again a dedicated instance, but the only difference between the on-premise and private is we will be hosting the private cloud in our own state-of-the-art data centers. You will have to just provide us the list of devices which you are looking for to be accessed remotely for your dedicated team, and we will procure those devices. We will create a separate instance of the cloud within our data center, and we'll plug in those devices, and we'll make that link available only exclusively to the client who is looking for private cloud. Now in on-premise cloud and on private cloud, you will have access to the devices 24/7, right? And on public cloud, of course, you will have the access. I mean, the devices will be available 24/7, but it may so happen that some of the user might be using that particular device when you are looking for that. So that's the whole disadvantage of public cloud. But yeah, these are the three different offerings we have on pCloudy. right? So let's move on to the next slide to see what exactly we have in the store today for pCloudy 5.3. So we have four features which we are actually releasing today with 5.3 on pCloudy. The first and foremost is about support for the Appium Desktop. Right, we are going to talk about Appium Desktop, what it is, when we'll move on to the next slide. The second feature which we are releasing in 5.3 is AndroidX instrumentation for Espresso. So basically, the support for AndroidX. The third one is about supporting the Android app bundle format, right? .aab format. Right now we are known about .apk format, but we are also supporting .aab in this release, and we are going to see about this what exactly AAB means. And the last thing is about single sign-on, right? So we are going to talk about each feature in detail in the subsequent slides. So let's move on to the Appium Desktop, right? Now, I have mentioned certain challenges and solutions, right? Since we are talking about Appium Desktop, I have mentioned here Appium Desktop, but in the reality, the challenges which we have mentioned it here is not about the Appium Desktop. The challenges are, if you are an existing user of pCloudy and you want to create the test automation cases, then what are the challenges typically you were facing so far was what we have mentioned it here, right? The first challenge which we have seen is, most of the time the users are stuck with their own physical devices in their possession. So while creating test automation, they'll have to connect the device to their local system and then use UI automator 2 or some other tools to get the object elements and then create the test automation cases, write the code, and then test it locally once, and then they can probably use that on pCloudy, right? That's what typically most of the users were doing so far. So that's one of the big challenge we are seeing in the market for pCloudy. Then unable to run inspector sessions for both Android and iOS apps on pCloudy, right? If you see, so far we didn't have the capability for iOS, though we had for Android. I mean, we had a device tunnel feature which you can use to connect the device virtually to your local system, and then use UI Automator 2 to grab the UI elements. But that was not there for iOS. That was the second challenge which we have seen or the users are facing. And third one is unable to get the elements, locators, and XPath very easily. I mean, you will get it, but then it will be hidden somewhere in there. So you'll have to go through the hierarchy, find it properly, and then get it. It's not that easy. Coding is difficult. That's the reality. So if you're writing the test scripts, you also have to have the good understanding about the framework which you are using. The coding knowledge has to be there. So that's always a challenge, because at times we don't get the enough time to learn the language, or we don't get enough resources to do these things, right? So that's one of the challenge which we have seen is. And the last one we have seen quite often in the industry is the XPath for a specific object will change with the different versions of the mobile devices, and that's a very big issue, because we have often seen that the the test script which is created is working fine for 6.0, but when I'm running the same on 8.0, it's not working. The object not found error is coming. So of course, this is an issue with the Android, wherein if you change the versions at times, the way developers write the code, they will change the XPath, the absolute XPath, right? So in that case, you need a handy solution which will help you to immediately grab the XPath for that particular version and then run it, right? So these are the challenges which typically the users are facing when they are using pCloudy. So to provide the solution to all these challenges, we have introduced Appium Desktop, right? We have enabled the users to work with the Appium desktops on pCloudy, and we are going to see how we can actually use pCloudy, Appium Desktop with pCloudy. It will also help you to provide the inspector for better analysis of the applications. These are the obvious advantages of the Appium Desktop. There are more elements access. You'll be enabling to more element access, and we'll also provide you. I mean, not we, but the Appium Desktop will provide you the action recorder and code generator. So even if you are not very you're not having a lot of hands on the coding part, you can always use the recorder from the Appium Desktop, record the test case, and then use that in your code to trigger or run it on devices at pCloudy, right? So we are going to quickly go and see how we can use the Appium Desktop. Now, in the interest of time, what I have done is I have recorded a video, and I'm going to play the video for here, and I'll be explaining you the video, right? So let me quickly go to the video and open the Appium Desktop video. Okay, so uh, to use the Appium Desktop, of course, you will have to have the Appium Desktop installed on your local system, whichever, whether you are using whatever system with you, right? So you will have to install the Appium Desktop, which I have already done it here, and then I'm just triggering the Appium Desktop, and I'm just running it. When I run it and when I click on this icon, this is the UI which you are going to see it now. Now, if you really look at this, there are certain icons on the top which talks about Sauce Lab, Destroid, Browser Stack. These are all our competitors, right? So they have already done this integration there. So soon you will start seeing an icon here for, or logo here for pCloudy also, right? So we have created the necessary changes, we have given it to the community, and they will be releasing it in the next release. But till I hope the next release should be out by next month. So till next month, if you want to use Appium Desktop on pCloudy, you can actually go to the custom server and then use this feature, to configure the pCloudy server here. And how we can do that? It's very easy. You can see here, when I click on the custom server, you'll have to say which is the remote host. That's device.pcloudy.com. And if you're using any of the private clouds or on-premise cloud, you will have to provide the necessary link or the host for that particular URL, and then you can provide the remote path, right? So typically this will be the remote path, appium cloud/wd/hub, and you can choose the port. Now, since the Appium desktop is running on 443, I have used 443 here, and after that you can go to the desired capabilities, right? So you can actually get the capabilities from the pCloudy. So you can see here all these capabilities in the JSON format, right? These are the capabilities. You can actually copy it from the pCloudy's device page. You can go for a look for a specific device and get certain capabilities like your username, API key, then the booking duration, the mobile manufacturer name, and the mobile name. You can get it from there. Or else, if you're aware of these capabilities, you can also input those capabilities straight here, and then you provide the parameters here, like username is this one, so I have just entered that username here. So this way I can actually include all the necessary capabilities, and you can see here I have selected 15 minutes. It means I'll be booking a device for next 15 minutes from Motorola manufacturer, right? And all these capabilities which I am mentioning it here will start appearing it here, so you can also have a look at this capabilities, right? Now, yeah, I'm just going through a rest of the other standard capabilities also. You can put the application package name, application activity name, and then you just say start session. So when I click on start session, the session will start there, right? And then when the session will start, it will go and book a device from Motorola. That's what we have given there, right? So when it goes and book a device from Motorola manufacturer, you can actually come to device.pcloudy.com, go to my reports folder, and in my active session you can actually see the session which we have just created using Appium Desktop. You just need to click on this button which says action, and we'll open the live view. Okay, we'll open a live view in another tab where you can see the device. Now you can see the device is getting connected here. I'm just opening the Appium Desktop besides that, and then you can see now the device is acquired for you, and it says the application, whatever application we have given in the capabilities, got installed on this particular device, and the same screenshot will start appearing it here in the Appium Desktop. Right now, I can actually go and these are screenshots, right? So I can actually go and choose any of the element on the application, right? I can just, you can see there are a couple of options which we have. So when I click on select elements and then come here and actually click on this accept button here, see what happens. When I click on the accept button, you can see a complete hierarchy of the objects will start appearing it here, and then you can see the object um, parameters or the attributes associated with this particular object in this pane here, by ID, by the absolute XPath, and so on. So Yeah, you can also take certain actions on this button. You can say tap, you can send keys, you can clear, and then these are the different attributes. You can see it from here, right? So you can go and choose whatever you want. Now if when I click on tap, this particular action will be performed on this application, and you can see it is already passed to the device, and device has actually gone to the next screen. And then I'm just clicking on one more button here called book a flight. When I go to book a flight and click on tab, it will do that, and then it will perform that particular action, and it will start showcasing you all the object properties for this particular button which we have chosen. So you can see there here. So I'm just copying it, the X path, just so that you can see it from the notepad, right? So this way you can actually create the you can find the object elements. Now when you are writing a code, when you are writing a single code, a simple code for any automation test scripts, be it Android or iOS, you just need all these elements, right? Rest of the coding skills you must be having, so you'll have to use this, your coding skill, and get the element IDs from here, and then put it in your code and create the scripts, right? That's how the Appium desktop will help you. Now this is first part where you can actually, if you have a skills to go and do the automation creation, you can actually uh, you know get this elements and then create the code. But what if suppose you don't have enough knowledge and you want to record, right? So you want to record the actions and create the test scripts accordingly. So that is something is also pretty much available here, right? So let me just go and open this video, which is actually uh, here, right? So I'll just start from here. Okay, so you can see here now the same application I have opened here, and then I'm going to this particular button here on the top which talks about recording, right? So let's say I just click on the recording, start recording, and then I'm coming to the application and I'm clicking on the accept button. See what happens when I click on accept button, right? So you can see I'm just clicking on the tab, and that tab has gone on the device. You will start seeing the element ID for that particular thing, and you can see the code is getting generated here. You can see the code here, right? So this is the code which is generated by the Appium Desktop. So this way you can actually do certain actions, perform certain actions on this particular device, and then the the necessary code will be generated on that, right? You can see the second action is also getting recorded, and so on the rest of the other actions which I'll be performing on this particular uh, application. So once, let me quickly just go a little further. So once the entire workflow is recorded, once you are done with your entire workflow, you can actually see the code will be generated for the entire workflow. Now what you can do, when once the testing is done, once you have recorded all the necessary actions, what you can do, you can actually go to this tab here, save this, and then you can copy the entire code from this recorder, right? You can copy the entire code. You can see now it says boilerplate code. You just click on the boilerplate code, and then you say copy code to the clipboard. Now it will be a code which is into JUnit format. Now you can come to the your Eclipse or wherever you are using it, and then you can just paste the code. I just pasted the code which I have copied from the um, Appium Desktop, and this is how the code will look like. This is pretty similar to the code which you will be writing for your own automation scripts, right? So this way you can actually generate, you can save a whole lot of your time if you are using Appium Desktop, and then creating the uh, test cases there, right? So this is what support we have already given, enabled on our public cloud, and of course on the private and on-premise cloud for all our customers. So those who are interested in the Appium desktop and automation test creation can very well use this particular feature, right? So let's move on to the next part of the presentation here. The next one is about AndroidX. Now I don't have much more things to showcase in terms of features for the AndroidX. So let's understand when I say AndroidX support, what does it mean? So if you see the challenges in the current market, the before the AndroidX was launched in the market, the old artifacts and the package names were pretty much confusing mess, right? So this is more from the development's perspective, so the developers can understand this in much better way. So it was always a confusing mess. The support library which we had earlier, they had packages which is not separately maintained and updated, right? So it's a combined package. We have whole lot of big code for that, and while using support libraries, it becomes really impossible to ensure that all the libraries should be of the same version. So it's practically not possible, because if their libraries are of not the same version, it will not work, right? So that's something, it's an extra overhead on the developers to develop while developing their Android applications. And the last point which we have seen in the challenges for the developers is adding a component in the application was really having a lot of dependencies. Even those that are not required, those dependencies will also were pretty much needed to be added in the application, even if I'm not looking for that, or even if that is not really needed for me. So those were the challenges which most of the developers were facing before Android X was released. Now, to address those challenges, Google has released Android X, which was actually helping the developers to uh, uh, do their coding in a very nice way. You can only add the dependencies which is typically required by your application. You don't have to add the whole dependencies or whole libraries which is available in the support library, right? So now you can add the dependencies which is typically required for your application in Android. And unlike the uh, library support, Android X packages are really separately maintained and updated, so you can actually see there won't be any issues when you are building your application with this. And for the Android X, all the libraries are not be of the same version, need not be of the same version. So even if there is a mismatch of the versions, it will still work, right? So these are the some advantages of Android X. Now, why we are talking about Android X here when I don't have any specific feature to be showcased in the pCloudy? It is because the whole uh, development community is actually moving towards Android X. So we have to provide the support for Android X. Typically, when the developers are moving to Android X, they will have a tendency to create the test automation cases for their unit testing. Now, if they're writing a unit test cases, typically in the Espresso platform or framework, right? So when they're using Espresso framework, they will have to make sure that they use the necessary instrumenter for those files. Otherwise, they'll not be able to run the Espresso tests on any of the devices. So we have enabled the necessary plugin or the instrumenter in pCloudy. So let me quickly go to device.pcloudy.com. I think this is how the UI looks like. Those who are seeing it first time, okay, I have logged out there, so I'm just logging in my credentials here. Okay, so when I click on the automation, you will see the automation frameworks which we support at pCloudy, right? So when I click on Espresso, now this Android X does matter only for the Espresso test automation, right? So if the developer has created some applications using Android X and he is writing any unit test cases for that particular application, and they want to trigger those or run those test cases on pCloudy devices, they can actually come to Espresso, and in the very first step they can go and choose the application which is under test. Let's say this application is what I have selected, and there is a test APK or the test suite, right? So I'm just selecting the necessary test suite for that. Then I can go and select the duration for how long I want to run this execution, and I can give this test name, whatever cycle name, default name I have to give it. But here, the first thing we have to do is we have to select the instrumentation type. So by default, test instrumentation runner was available there, right? So you can see so far we had two instrumentation types here, the instrument test instrumentation runner and Android JUnit runner. Now, because there is Android X available in the market, we also have to support Android X JUnit runner. And this is what I'm referring to when we say we have given a support for Android X. We can now run the Espresso test cases by the developers by selecting the Android X JUnit runner if they are using AndroidX. And once you do this, you can actually come to the next. Of course, this is not what we are covering today here, but I'll just quickly show here the second step where you can go and select as many devices as you want on which you want to, execute your test automation cases, right? So you can see I have selected 9 devices. All these 9 devices will be selected, and then you go to the next step. On the third step, you'll have to confirm this particular cycle, and then we will schedule this particular cycle. Platform will book those devices which you have selected, and then it will start test run on those devices parallelly, and you will be notified once the execution gets over on those devices. So this is how you can actually use the espresso and the runner which we have created here for your espresso needs. All right, so next move on to the third, and this is very important feature which we have released. I believe we are one of the first in our competitive space who has released this AAB support. Now, what is AAB support, right? Now, so far we are all aware about the APK files for the Android platform, right? That's the way the packaging for the application is done by the Android platform to distribute and install on the devices, right? Which will have different configurations and language inputs. Now, APK, when we are talking about, this is very, very important, right? So the APK will have lot of configurations and language inputs within the same .apk file. So that's the reason if you see the APK files for any applications in the market, they have a very high huge in the size. When we install, it consumes a lot of space on the devices, right? These are some of the challenges the users are facing when they are installing a lot of APKs on their devices. So what actually it makes when we have all the configurations, because there are so many devices available in the market, there are so many different versions, different hardware and software configurations, different screen sizes, different regions, different languages, right? So whole lot of things, different processors, yeah. There are so many processors available in the even in the Indian market or in the US market. So when I'm writing an application, I will have to support each and everything. If I have to give access to all the Android community, I have to make sure that I code my application in such a way that I handle all the screens, I handle all the processors, I handle all the languages, because mine is distributed across all the throughout the world. So it makes the application very, very, very bulky, right? Now, the solution to this, which again Google has released, is something called uh, Android App Bundle, which is a zip file, okay, and with a .aab extension. So since it's a Android App Bundle, they call it is called AAB extension. Now it's the same; it's very similar to the APK file. I'm sorry, I have a very bad throat today. All right, so the app bundle in the app bundle, the dynamic delivery is usually generate an optimized APK for users based on the device configuration. When I say this, what does it mean is, if you're using APK file, you have all the languages, you have all the device configurations. Now, if I have a Samsung phone which is having a large screen, and I am pretty much a user from India who deals with the English language, for example, I really do not need Russian language or Japanese language or any other languages from different continents, right? I do not need the application to be having support for other processor which I'm not using on my device, right? So basically, this is what the AAB file does. Okay, it will have a separate modules for different processor, different languages, different screen sizes, and it will just take the one which is needed for your own device on which you want to install this. And that's the reason it says developers need to write very less code and push it to the app in Play Store. If they want to tomorrow give us support for something new, they will have to just write the code for that and push it to the Play Store, right? the, there are two things which happens here. One is, of course, the application size is reduced, and the users will be the happiest in this scenario, because they will save a lot of space on the devices because the APK size will be small, right? So if you see uh, uh, the image here, it's an animated image. You can see now on these two devices we are just taking the one screen, one processor, one specific language. I'm interested, let's say, in French language. So I've just taken that, and my application is installed, and I'm done. My application size is small, and it's pretty fast. Whereas this is a legacy APK where you have all the combinations will get installed on the devices, right? And then it makes the device slow, it makes the uh, it consumes a whole lot of space on the devices and so on, right? It's difficult to maintain also. So this is what AAB is talking about here. We are just taking the necessary processor for which you have necessary application screen and necessary language, and that's it. The basic core software, the basic functional part will remain same, but other configurations will be distributed based on the device capability you have, right? So this is what AAB generally refers to. Now we have given the support for AAB, right? And we are going to see that in a moment on the pCloudy, how you can actually uh, use the AAB files. So you'll have to go to my app data. I'm not very sure if everybody is aware about this part, but when you want to install any application, you can actually upload that application to the cloud drive, the access which we provide to every individual user, where user can upload the file on which they want to test their application, test their application for the devices, right? So you can just go to browse app, and then you can select the application from their local workstation, right? So I'm just going and selecting pCloudy login.aab. This is a file which is stored on my local drive. I'm just uploading this to the cloud drive. When I say upload and open, this file will be uploaded to the cloud drive, and you will start seeing that file somewhere here. Yeah, you can see pCloudy login.aab, the file which I have just selected from my local drive, started appearing in my app data. Now I should be using this file from here and installing it on the pCloudy devices, right? So I'm just going to the devices page and acquiring a device, right? So I'll acquire a device. This is the way you can actually do the testing for manual in manual way. So let's go to Google Pixel 2, for example. When I click on this, the device will be acquired for you, and you will be taken to the device interaction page. Now, for the benefit of all those who are seeing the pCloudy first time, I'll quickly tell them that this is the device interaction page, and you can see this device. This is a real physical device, acquired remotely by the user from our data center, right? And I can interact with the device with the help of mouse. So when I actually drag the screen up, you can see the screen here. You can just go down, yeah. So you can pretty much do everything what you can do with the phone in hand. Now, on the left hand side, you can see certain icons, and so on the right hand side, these are the features which we support on pCloudy, which brings a lot of value add to your normal functional testing. Of course, I'm not going in details because this webinar is not for that, but I just wanted to mention that thing here, right? Now let's see how we can install the AAB file on this device, right? You just click on install button, and we will start showcasing you all the files we have already uploaded to the cloud drive. Now those who are already using pCloudy so far, they will for them it's pretty easy, because they are using the APK and IPA files to install. Same way we have to use it for AAB, but then we started showing you the AAB file here. Now when I click on install the particular file, that file will be installed by the platform on that particular device, and you can see the uh, uh, progress from here. You can see the file is getting installed by the platform. Now once the file gets installed, it will be launched and opened for you, so you can immediately start doing testing. So I'm not very sure whether this is our internal application, so you will not see a lot of things there. Let me just zoom in a little bit so you can see what exactly is showing on the screen. So it's this pCloudy login. You'll have to provide your user credentials and then press login button. Right now, if I just click on this, it says field should not be empty. Okay, let me just put something, maybe test and say Yeah, so it has gone inside, right? So this is the way you can install the AAB files on Android devices, and then you can start working with that particular application to test manually, or for that matter even in automation way. Yeah, so this is how you can use the AAB files for testing on pCloudy devices. And once your testing is done, you can just release the device, and then you just say yes, we will clean up the device as a part of our process. All right, so we have seen the AAB format also. Now moving to the next feature. Now next feature I'll not be able to showcase on the public cloud, but let's talk what single sign-on means, right? Single sign-on, as the literal meaning here is, you don't need different sign-in uh, passwords and authentications to be remembered for different platforms, right? So we have seen in the enterprise environment where most of the organizations have their active directories, or their uh, uh, the mechanism to have single password for all their internal portals and websites and logins, right? Even for the finance or HR or employee self-help, right? So you will have to have a single login, so that will be maintained by your organization. You don't have to keep remembering the different passwords, different usernames for different websites, right? That has got its own advantages, which we have mentioned in the solution part here. But the challenge here is a lot of organizations are coming ahead and opting for our private or on-premise cloud, and here they'll have to register separately. Every user has to register separately and sign up separately on this particular platform, and then they'll have to remember their user and password, right? So single sign-on feature, when we said we have released, basically we will integrate this platform with your Active Directory or LDAP or SAML2, I mean whatever Active Directory you're using it, right? So we will actually integrate with that. So whatever username, password, whatever authentication you have already done with the internal platform, internal tool, the same will be applied to this particular platform. So you don't have to necessarily register on this platform, and you don't have to create your own username, password on this platform. You can very well use the one which is available within your premises, within your organization. The same username, password can be used here. That's what we are actually talking about, the single sign-on, right? So the challenges which we have seen, mostly like you will have different logins for the different websites, and then it will increase the chances of hacking and stuff like that. Then the security becomes a bigger concern, and that's the reason most of the organizations will say that we will have a single sign-on which will be managed centrally from a single place. So we have already spoken about the solution, that single sign-on, the SSO, which we are talking about here, which reduces the risk, of course, for the accessing the third-party sites. So you don't have to have a separate username, password, and you don't have to really worry that your password will be stored on their servers externally, right? Uh, you will also get a relaxed time. You don't have to you'll not get any fatigue by remembering so many username and passwords and different combinations there. The IT cost will be reduced, because there will be only one IT help desk for the password, and of course the maintenance will reduce there. uh, you will reduce the time spent re-entering the password for the same identity. I mean, if you are having three different portals, you don't have to keep entering the same everywhere. You just enter it once, and then it will start working across all the sites within your premises then, right? And of course, you're moving to a safety, and makes the process of signing up very easy for all the users who are using this feature. So this particular feature we have released only for the private and on-premise cloud. Currently it is not available for the public cloud. Of course, we do have a single sign-on with the Google accounts if you have, but in a true sense, we do not have single sign-on on public cloud because of obvious restrictions. But it is pretty much there for private and on-premise cloud, right? So yeah, with this, we have covered all the four features which we have released in 5.3 with pCloudy. We have another close to 10 more minutes, I believe we can move on to the Q&A session. And yeah, I'll be more than happy. If you have any questions, I can answer those questions. So yeah, please go on. Thank you so much for your time. You can please ask the questions if you have any. All right, I think the folks are writing the questions now. Okay, let me just quickly open the questions. Just give me a second. Yeah. All right, there is a question from Ravi Kumar. He's asking, can we test the accessibility feature using the inbuilt tool on the hosted mobile devices like voiceover and talkback, etc.? So, Ravi, to answer your question, we do not have this features available on pCloudy. I mean, we do. You can do the accessibility testing, accessibility features testing. You can do it on this platform, but restricted to certain things, right? You cannot pretty much do the talkback or the voiceover features, because audio is something which we are not transmitting as of now. So any testing where you are involved for audio testing, that's something currently we do not have. We do have that feature in our roadmap. We are working with the audio feature, and very soon we will be having the audio feature released. And once we have that, maybe you can do the accessibility feature testing using pCloudy. I hope I have answered your question. Okay, so yeah, I think there were yeah, a couple of questions are coming in here. Maybe the questions are more about the pCloudy platform is what I'm seeing it. Okay, let me take a question. Yeah, there's a question from Nitesh. Okay, can I install the app from TestFlight and Hockey? I believe, yeah, this is more from the uh, platform perspective. So yes, Nitesh, you can actually use both Hockey and TestFlight applications to install your application on both Android and iOS devices. So not necessarily you should be installing the application the way I have shown from there. But yeah, if you want, if you are using any distributed mechanism like Hockey or TestFlight, you can very well use that to install your applications. You can also install it from the Play stores if you have. Yeah, I believe there is one more question from Benjamin. He asked the same question what Nitesh has asked. Can we pull an APK and IPA from Hockey app and install to device during automation? All right, the question is a little different here. The Nitesh has asked a question from the manual testing per se, but Benjamin has asked from the automation perspective. So Benjamin, right now there is a limitation from our framework side. I mean, Appium as such does support that you can install the applications APK or IPA from Hockey app, and then you can run the automation. But currently we have a limitation. We have working on that. This is the feature request we have got from the market. So yeah, we will be releasing this particular feature very soon, wherein you can uh, install the applications from Hockey and still do the automation execution. I hope I have answered your question. Okay. Shaktipada Behra has asked a question. Does this support visual comparison testing? So visual comparison testing as such, pCloudy does not support, because we are providing you the real devices with some of the key features there. But we have another feature within this called Automation Studio. Right, you can use that Automation Studio. Automation Studio does support the visual comparison for your applications. Yeah, I believe there is a question from Pradeep Ray, pretty much in the similar lines. Any OCR or image support? So, yeah, I mean, to answer both Saktipada and Pradeep, we do have this feature available from the Automation Studio. You can use that. Okay, there is one question from Ravi Kumar again. He's seeing pCloudy first time, and how can we automate do automation for iOS devices? So, Ravi, if you are asking me how you can create the test automation cases and execute on device.pcloudy.com, so creation part, the way we have seen for uh, Android, same way you can do it for iOS. The biggest advantage here is you don't need the Mac machines if you want to run and create the test automation for iOS. You can very well use your Windows system and use pCloudy and use Appium Desktop. You can still grab iOS device, create your test automation cases, and then trigger it from pCloudy. Now, if you are using Appium, the way we execute run the test cases on pCloud is little different. You'll have to trigger it from your Eclipse. Maybe we have certain videos available on the internet. You can see that, or we can connect it back later, and I can connect you with someone who will explain you about the automation test execution part. Okay. Uh, okay. So there is one more question from Pradeep. He's asking, do pCloudy has any inbuilt object selector? So pCloudy as such, if you really look at it, is a tool or a platform which is meant for the automation test execution and for the manual test execution. So if you want to see the inbuilt object selector from pCloudy perspective, yes, we do have that, but we have that through Automation Studio. So you'll have to use our Automation Studio. Now let me just explain, because I have spoken about Automation Studio a little while ago. So Automation Studio is basically the test engine which we have, which will help you to record it will help you to create the test cases without writing a single line of code. Basically, it's a record and play. So you can record your workflow. You can connect any device from pCloudy and then record your workflow. You just do the manual actions the way you want to do it on the device, and then we will create the automation test cases in the form of plain English keywords that you can actually run it on pCloudy devices. So when we are creating the plain English keywords, you will see that the Automation Studio has inbuilt capability to capture the the object elements, the entire hierarchy, and then you can use that. So the object selectors, you can see that we have a capability to get it from the application and show it to you, and we will show everything, the entire hierarchy. So in case you do not want the absolute path to be used, you want relative path, you can just change that. You just, there is a single tick box, right? You just select saying I don't want absolute X path, I want relative X path. You just click on the relative X path, and that's it. I hope I have answered your question. Maybe we can have another session, or maybe you can just try Automation Studio and get back to me in case you have any questions. We can have another session with you one-on-one. Is there any video recording feature for one scenario while running script apart from whole session? There is a question from Mallikarjun. Is there any video recording feature? Yeah. So we do have, I mean, I was just talking about the same here about the Automation Studio. So if you are using Automation Studio, you can actually record the workflow, and it will actually create the test automation cases there. Okay, one more question from Shaktipada. Does this support cross-browser testing? So cross-browser testing from the mobile web part, yes, it does support. We have a cross-browser testing feature wherein you can open different browsers with different versions, right? So it's not only different browsers alone, we have even made it available different versions. So you will see three different for example, 3 Chrome browsers, right? Chrome and 3 Firefox browsers, but with different versions. Maybe Chrome, Firefox 59, 60, 61. So you can actually test your mobile web application on different browsers with different versions, and this will give you the complete metrics, and you will know what is the threshold for your application. Okay, and there is one more question. Yeah, there is one more question from Kishore. Is asking if can we use Appium Desktop to create the iOS test automation scripts? Yes, I have answered this question sometime back. Yes, we do support that. There is a question from Milan. Does it support the gestures accessibility of devices? So we do support certain gestures, Milan, and not all. Have answered some this similar kind of questions sometime back, where uh, we have certain limitations from the accessibility point of view. So audio is something which we have mentioned as one of the limitation we have. So gestures point of view, if you really look at it, we support swipe, we support drag, we support single tap, we support double tap, right? But pinch zoom is something which we do not support, because when you are interacting with the device, you are interacting with the mouse, and then mouse has its own limitations, right? So pinch zoom, shaking the device, or tapping it against the NFC devices, those are the things which we do not support right now here. But yeah, I mean, most of the gestures which typically user uses are something which we support. All right, so I have got a few more questions here, but I think in the interest of time now, I'll take the last question here today, and then maybe I will reply to the other unanswered questions on one-on-one. Yeah. Okay. There is a question from John. Yeah, I think John has joined a little bit because he's asking the question: do I need to use the configure server to use Appium Desktop to be used on pCloudy? Okay, so I believe John is asking if while using the Appium Desktop, there was server configuration on the top left side, right, which we have used, and we have given a lot of uh, capabilities there. So John, this is typically is not needed currently. You would have noticed that we have certain other logos on the top right hand corner, where it's we're talking about browser stack and SaaSLab and so on. So same way you will start seeing the logo for pCloudy, and when you want to use it with pCloudy, you just need to click on that logo, and all the capabilities the typically required will be automatically configured by our platform, right? Now, since Appium Desktop is managed by the open source community, right? So we have to give our code to them. It will get reviewed, and then they will, release it in the next release. So we have already got approval from the Appium community, and this code will be released in the next upcoming release, hopefully by next month. And then you will start seeing the pCloudy logo there, and then probably you just need to click that and start using it. Yeah. So thank you. Thank you all. I think yeah, Partha Basak, thank you so much for appreciating me. Uh, Thank you so much, guys, for uh, so patiently available on the webinar and listening to the conversation here and asking beautiful questions. There are certain questions which I have not answered. I'll be getting back to them personally by writing the emails to them. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great day. Bye bye.